Good afternoon. This is Dr. David, and I want to welcome you back to the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast, where I offer you a fresh start each and every episode. And if you are a subscriber, which I recommend that you do, regardless of which platform you use, whether you use YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Apple Music or Apple iTunes, or whether you use Samsung Music or Google Podcasts, or if you use Pandora or Spotify or iHeartRadio or Podcast Addict, whichever platform that you use to get music, podcasts, videos, things like that, I'm on there. So please check out and subscribe to and share the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast. I would love for more people to hear the messages that I have to share. I don't charge for this podcast, even though it costs me my time and my money. I even got a new microphone, which I'm sure you can tell if you listen to the difference between this podcast or the past couple of podcast episodes and the earlier ones from early part of season 2 and all of season 1. You can tell the quality difference. And the microphone wasn't cheap, but hopefully it's worth it. So anyway, welcome back. And like I said, this is my opportunity to give you and myself too a fresh start. I think we need to all have self-care and self-love activities that we do. I certainly have my opinions and my ideas and solutions that I'd like to offer, especially in the world that we live in, where everything seems to be a quick fix or a short-sighted Band-Aid, which I talked about during the last podcast episode, one that I did yesterday. So I did a podcast episode yesterday on quick fixes, temporary fixes, short-sighted Band-Aids, things like that. And I talked about, things like marijuana, illicit drugs. I talked about AI and ChatGPT and how people use that to cheat on papers and not learn things and not learn to synthesize information and regurgitate it and understand it and apply it to a lot of different situations. I also talked about, addictive prescriptions that are used for a lot of psychiatric disorders, like benzos that are used to treat anxiety and panic symptoms, and stimulants that are used to treat ADD and ADHD, which aren't good, and even depression a lot of times. And then opioid narcotics, which have their place, but should not be used as liberally as they are. They should be more judiciously and conservatively used. So that's what I talked about in the last podcast. And I think if you look for solid, safe, cautious, conservative, long-term, well thought out solutions, you're just going to come out better in the long run. It's like the difference between buying good furniture and buying cheap furniture that you're going to have to probably replace 3 times, and the good furniture will still be around and will appreciate in value. And I could go on and on about that, whether it's a home or whether it's a car or whether it's clothing or whether it's furniture or other things. You tend to come out better when you make a good investment in a long-term solution. So anyway, that's what this podcast is all about. And I would like to think that the solutions that I offer, the fresh starts that I offer, are long-term, well-thought-out solutions. So with that, let's get started for today. And like I said, please subscribe. You can also donate to this podcast. So if you go to the podcast website, you can donate to this podcast. I would love for people to donate to this podcast. I started a 501c3 called the Resilience Project, and I would love to receive donations for that. We have a mental health crisis in this country, especially among teens, adolescents, and young adults. Suicide rates are skyrocketing. People aren't communicating. They don't have many friendships. They don't have a lot of social skills. And people are kind of like turning internally in a negative way. And that's why I started the Resilience Project, to help teens, adolescents, and young adults with life coaching, life skills, relaxation methods, and things that help them disconnect from technology, disconnect from negative feelings, to express, acknowledge, become aware of, and accept feelings and thoughts, and just cope with life better. So please donate to this podcast. Please subscribe. Please share it. Please help others. And like I said, right now, the podcast is free. So without further ado, let's get it started with what I want to talk about today. And it's going to be a shorter podcast. But today I want to talk about somebody I've mentioned, excuse me, on several podcast episodes, someone who I have mentioned on my websites, I believe, and someone I've also written my books in tribute to. And this is the episode that I've talked about in the past that I want to do just to kind of thank her for the energy and the mark that she has left with the world and continues to make on a regular basis. And that person is Miss Oprah Winfrey. So this podcast is all about Oprah Winfrey, Super Soul Sundays, daily positive affirmations, and motivational quotes. And I just want to share a little bit about the genesis of my books. So I have 2 self-improvement books, as you probably know or may not know by now. Sweet Potato Pie for the Spirit, Soul, and Psyche, a tribute to Oprah Winfrey, and Super Soul Sundays, which is on Amazon. And then also Tomato Bisque for the Brain, which is a book of psychological wisdom and empowerment, inspirational quotes, and positive affirmations. And both of those are on Amazon. But if you read the introduction at the beginning of either of those books, you'll see that Oprah Winfrey was the inspiration for both of those self-improvement books. She was also the inspiration for my first diet, nutrition, health, wellness, weight loss, weight management, and lifestyle management book, The Nutrient Diet, which is also on Amazon. And it's the first book of its kind to take a 50% metabolic, biochemical, physiological approach to diet and nutrition to explain what your body does with things you put in it and why you should choose one thing or another over another. And also 50% the psychology of why we make the food choices and eating behaviors that we do and how to change them with easy steps during the holidays, during the rest of the year, through meal planning, through meal prep, through preparation, through a lot of different things, and also uncovering why it is you may be overindulging in certain foods. Maybe you have a food addiction, things like that, and then how to change it. So I would definitely recommend that you check those books out. If you buy a copy of any of those books on Amazon and share it on social media, a picture of the book, whatever, I'll give you an audible version of the book that you can listen to while you work, while you commute, while you're at school, or while you're at home, or whatever. So anyway, those books are all in tribute to Oprah Winfrey. And if you check out any of the books, you'll see inside that they are. Excuse me. The other thing is that was the guiding reason for writing my books in the first place. And it started with Sweet Potato Pie for the Spirit, Soul, and Psyche. So let me tell you a little bit about that book. Sweet Potato Pie for the Spirit, Soul, and Psyche is kind of a book where I share a lot of things that I think. I share my thoughts on anxiety, and just kind of a little pep talk at the beginning of the book for people who are dealing with anxiety, panic, things like that. And then I also talk about solutions. So the second chapter of the book is all about sleep regimens, sleep physiology, the neurotransmitters involved in sleep, disorders that you can end up with if you don't get enough sleep, circadian rhythms, body clocks, body cycles, all that kind of stuff. So it dives in pretty deeply into all that stuff, and even tells you how coffee works and why coffee keeps you awake and the mechanism behind that. So it's important to understand how that happens, right? So definitely check out that book. But there are other things that I talk about in that book about how to change and how our minds work and operate, kind of like computers, how computers are kind of based off how the mind works and things like that. There's even a chapter that kind of dives into the Matrix and some of the themes that are in the Matrix and how those relate to human growth and development and empowerment and improvement and things like that. Things like cause and effect and, a lot of different kind of outside the box principles. So I think it's a really, really good book. And if you're not a person who likes to read a physical copy of the book, get the Audible version or buy the physical copy and I will give you a copy of the Audible version. But that brings me back to why I wrote that book. I had a lot of clients in my practices. And as you know, I have several practices, which you can go to any of my websites and it'll lead you to all of the practices. But I had a lot of clients who came to me and they were just like, And I would say start your day off with a positive affirmation. Start your day off with a mantra or a mantra. Start your day off with a motivational quote. Start your day off with something you're going to focus on and allow to be a guiding light throughout your whole day, right? To drive away distractions and negative energy and negative people and negative thoughts and all that kind of stuff, right? So you can stay focused on being productive, energetic, happy, efficient, empowered, improved, all those kind of things. And I kept coming up short or having to send my clients to different places to find those motivational quotes, inspirational phrases, positive affirmations, things like that. One of the first places that I found that had tons and tons of motivational quotes and inspirational phrases and positive affirmations was Oprah's quote of the day. And so Oprah has, you can look it up, you can do a Google search for Oprah's quote of the day. I think that's what it's called. And it'll show you just quote after quote after quote related to everything. And I kept sending those and sharing those with my clients. In addition to that, when I created my websites, especially the first two, MLC of Greater Atlanta, which is www.mlcoga.com, and Atlanta Coaching and Hypnotherapy Associates, which is www.atlantacoaching.com. When I created those websites, I wanted the homepage to reflect positive affirmations. And so if you scroll down either one of those websites, near the bottom, before you get to the footer section with my information and how to contact us and things like that, there's a place where the motivational quote changes every single day. So you get a new motivational quote every single day. For most of the year that I pulled, a lot of them have come from Oprah Winfrey's quote of the day. But they're there. And I wanted to give my clients kind of a personalized approach. I think it's good to start off with a motivational quote or a positive affirmation or a mantra, but I think you should grow it, right? And that's what I did with my 2 self-improvement books. So I started out with a positive affirmation, maybe one that I thought of or one that I pulled from somewhere else, and then I expound upon it to all the places and all the ways that that positive affirmation or that motivational quote or mantra or self-affirmation might spread. So if there's a quote about motivation, right, I might kind of lead that into enthusiasm and drive and purpose and passion and all those things because they're all connected. So if you have positive affirmations or motivational quotes that you use on a daily basis, the more things that you connect them to, the more powerful they're going to be, right? Like weeds, just like weeds spread, or just like ivy spreads and things like that. So the more connections, or a company, or an idea, or a meme, right? We live in a world of memes, and they spread like wildfire, right? We call it going viral, right? But that's what happens. They gather traction and they grow. And so I wanted to do that with positive affirmation. So if somebody came up with a positive affirmation and said, you know, today I choose better options, better choices, and better decisions in my daily living, right? And you can name off how you would do that, you know, A, X, Y, Z, etc. starting today, right? So if you came up with a positive affirmation like that, what I would do, or what I do in my books is I lead it to other things. I lead it to other things of how I'm going to do that in my eating habits and my thought choices and reframing something negative to positive, right? So an example of a reframe would be if you said, oh my God, I always run out of time. If you change that and said, from here on out, I create and use more time. If you do that on a regular basis, if you reframe a negative comment like that into a positive one on a regular basis, it's going to start changing how you use and save and manage time. But if you keep on saying, oh my God, I always run out of time, or always lose time, or I'm always mismanaging time, or I'm always late, you're going to continue to manifest that. You cannot keep saying that. If you keep saying that, you're going to manifest it. The same thing is true about worry and anxiety. I think I've done several podcasts where I talk about it. I'm going to do a full podcast on anxiety and panic symptoms because they're so prevalent these days. And usually the anxiety is related to something other than the way it manifests. You know, a lot of times I have a lot of clients who come to me with driving related anxiety, but their anxiety has nothing to do with driving. It has to do with all the other areas of their life that aren't going the way that they want them to. And then we discover that and they're like, oh my God, it had nothing to do with driving. And I said, no, it didn't. It had to do with a displacement. You took something that was distressing in one area of your life that's really, really inconvenient if it manifested that way, and your mind did a logical thing. It displaced it onto something different, right? To achieve a goal. That's just how the mind works. And so if you get deep and dig deep like you do when you come to my office, you'll find that a lot of the things that you present with, symptoms and things like that, aren't related to that. The symptom is just a manifestation of the root cause. And if you get to the root cause, like we do in my office, then you'll find out the real reason. It's some other issue, right? Maybe related to trauma, maybe related to self-esteem. Fear is a big one. So if you fall asleep with racing thoughts, which we call worry, and you have these images of the worst case scenario, losing your job and losing your family and being homeless and being broke and all these kind of things, you're basically creating the mental machinery to make that happen, to manifest it. And so you've got to change that. And that's part of what we do in my office. And one of the ways that I help my clients do that is by having them to start off with a positive affirmation, a positive motivational quote, or a daily mantra, right? And when people meditate and do yoga and things like that, they kind of magnify and amplify that too, which I strongly believe in. So, excuse me, it is really, really good if you do that. But it all goes back to Oprah. That's where I found motivational quotes. I also enjoyed and still enjoy Super Soul Sundays with Oprah, where she takes somebody who's inspirational. If you go back to the Oprah Winfrey show from the 80s, I mean, it started out as a lot of talk shows during that period where it was like sensationalism and a lot of dramatic, wild things. I mean, she didn't get as wild as a lot of people did. She, for the most part, kept it pretty clean. I mean, if you look at some other people like Jerry Springer and Morton Downey Jr. and Geraldo and what's the guy who did all the DNA tests on almost every show? Maury Povich. They just went off the rails. They just took it to a wild place. But Oprah was pretty conservative about it. So was Phil Donahue. He was pretty conservative about it too. And there's some other people sprinkled kind of in between, like Ricky Lake and things like that. But my point is this, Oprah that's where she started with her talk show, but that's not where she ended it. She evolved it into like self-improvement and mental health and helping people become aware of trauma and acceptance of trauma and acknowledgement of trauma and moving forward. That's the process of growth. And in that way, I kind of think that she's kind of like the queen of mental health and self-improvement because she did that on a larger platform than anybody else I've known. Certainly she's not the first person to introduce mental health and self-improvement, but the influence, the effect that she had, the way that she destigmatized mental health and wellness, the way that she destigmatized and took the shame out of a lot of common mental health issues or even weight gain, was just amazing. And she didn't have to do that. She took a huge risk to do that. I remember the shows that she had when she brought huge bags of fat, the weight that she lost in front of the whole world. And it took a lot of courage and bravery to do that. The courage and bravery that a lot of people these days don't have. But Oprah did that. So, I can't say enough about the effect that she's had on me, the effect that she's had on the world. But the thing that I think we can learn from all that is that there's a power in starting off your day with a positive affirmation or a motivational quote and things like that, right? And if you study psychology or you study self-improvement, you'll see what it's called. It's called a focal point, right? One of the things that I do with my clients, in addition to getting to the root cause of what they're coming in for, whether it's anxiety or depression or ADD or relationship issues or problems with anger management or grief or whatever it is I give my clients, I share with them a lot of self-improvement products, right? I think it's part of their journey. It's part of what they can do on a daily basis to change the paradigm, right? To shift the narrative, to move things in a positive direction, to go outside their comfort zones, right? You are what you do on a daily basis in large part. And so if you start using daily motivational quotes, it's going to change who you are and what you manifest and what you do. If you start using self-improvement products or audios on a daily basis, and I'm going to say this, every self-improvement audio is not the same, right? If you find some stuff on YouTube and things like that, then it's free. You got it free. You found it on YouTube. It may not be the best. And I'm not trying to down or knock YouTube, but I'm saying that all self-improvement products aren't made the same. The products that I share with my clients are time tested. They're from professionals, psychologists, people who know what they're doing, and they're well-engineered products, and they work. They work with my clients. They've worked for me. They're proven. So don't just pick up any product, right? It may not help you at all, and it may hurt you, right? And it's worthwhile to come to my office or to go somewhere or find some place that has well-respected, proven products, right? And like I said, some of the products that I use are from companies that make subliminal audios. Some of the other products that I use are from or designed by a psychologist who studied NLP and change and things like that. And I mean, he's a psychologist, he has a PhD in psychology. He kind of knows something, you know what I mean? So you don't want to just get your self-improvement products from some Joe who just decided to, be a guru or whatever. You're going to get back what you started with, which is nothing. But it is worthwhile to start off your day with a positive affirmation or a motivational quote. And like I said, that's called the focal point, right? When you start with a focal point, it's going to inform everything you do. The same thing is true for a kid who presents to a classroom lecture or a classroom, to the classroom for a lesson that day, a lecture, a lesson, whatever it is, right? If you kind of have a sense of what the professor, the teacher is going to talk about ahead of time, and you kind of have an interest in it, and you kind of have a little bit of knowledge about it, you're going to have a framework for placing all that information that they're going to give you over the next 30 minutes or an hour. It's going to make a big difference in the way that the information comes into your consciousness, the way that you organize it, and everything else. It just makes a difference, right? So when you plan ahead of time, when you're preemptive and proactive, and you kind of create a framework, a structure for your day or for information or for life, it tends to go a lot better, right? Planning works. That's why that word exists, right? The plan A, plan B, plan C. Plans are important. I talk about those all the time in my office. Goals are important. Plans are important. Strategies, action steps are important. But you've got to start with a goal and a plan. If you have a goal and you don't have a plan, a strategy, or action steps, then all you have is a hope or a dream, right? But once you start planning, once you start coming up with strategies and then committing action steps, right, which means you're invested, then you're going to be much more likely to get positive rewards and outcomes and results. If you don't do that, then you're not going to get anything, right? Because everybody dreams, everybody wants stuff, everybody has desires. But if those desires don't become plans, strategies, and actions, then they're just desires, right? And every creature on this planet has a desire for something, right? But if you want to achieve, grow, and evolve, then you've got to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to Oprah Winfrey. Thank you to Super Soul Sundays. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out Super Soul Sundays, Oprah Winfrey. Also check out Oprah's Quote of the Day newsletter. It is free, and it's going to give you positive affirmations. You can also get them from my websites. So if you go to any of my websites, if you click in the upper right corner, it's going to show you a list of all of my practices. But my two mental health oriented practices, MLC of Greater Atlanta, which is Holistic Mental Health and Wellness, and then Atlanta Coaching and Hypnotherapy Associates, which is life coaching, self-improvement, self-empowerment, and hypnotherapy. Those have daily motivational quotes at near the bottom of the homepage, and they change every day. So all you have to do is set your browser to start off at one of my websites, and you're going to get a free daily motivational quote every single day, a different one, right? And I think there are like 250 of them in all. So anyway, do that. Start off your day with a positive affirmation. Start off your day with a motivational quote. Start off your day with a mantra, a positive mantra. Start off with your day with some kind of powerful affirmation about your own growth and development, and then start to visualize it. And then if you do that, it's going to change how you think, how you feel, how you respond and react to the circumstances around you, and your overall mindset. It's also going to give you a certain level of peace, right? That's what everybody wants today. Everybody wants peace. And so that's going to help you develop peace. So with that, I'm going to end. And like I said, definitely check out Oprah's Super Soul Sundays. That comes on the Oprah Winfrey Network on Sundays. Check out her quote of the day, and you can look that up. And then find some source, whether it's my books or somewhere else, of having daily affirmations, motivational quotes, and things like that. There are also 3 Facebook groups that I have that you can join. One of them is called Grow. It's a public group, GROW. You can share the motivational quotes on that group, right? And so all you have to do is go to Facebook and look up Grow, ask to join, agree to the rules of the group, and then join, and you'll get free daily affirmations, right? And motivational quotes. You don't have to, all you have to do. Now, I'd appreciate if people actually post things that they find. I don't care if they're quotes from Einstein or from Maya Angelou or from Gloria Steinem or whoever, but you get them free. It'd be great if you contribute too, but you get them free. And I'll have 2 other Facebook groups: Fresh Start with Dr. David, which is a private group. You can receive motivational quotes and things like that, but you can't share them. And then another one that's called New Balance with Dr. David. So definitely check those out. But without further ado, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me. Check out the recent episodes. I did a recent episode yesterday that was all about quick fixes and short-sighted band-aids versus solid, foundational, long-term solutions, right? And during that podcast, I expressed that you're going to be better off in the long term if you choose well thought out, cautious, safe, conservative, foundational long-term solutions versus, temporary band-aids and quick fixes. There's also 2 episodes that I did recently about self-love and self-care with Phoenix Soul that you should check out. You should check out the recent episode that I did with Melat Tezera about stability. And then definitely check out the one that I did recently on general health, mental health and wellness, parenting, relationships, and family dynamics, and life golden nuggets. And with that, I'll wrap up. Hey, you take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.